Well, howdy, y'all. Um, it's off. There we go. I like to be a little free, if that's okay with you all. Move a little bit. I'm gonna get the y'all out of the way because I'm from Alabama. Well, originally from Tennessee, the Chattanooga area, but we live. My wife Rachel and our three daughters. Rachel and I have been married for 15 years. Our three girls, Isabella, Eliana, and Cadence, in that order: 14, 11, and 8. All right. Notice I didn't mention any men other than me. So it's just swimming in that estrogen ocean all the time. But yeah. So again, I've been blessed to sit at a table with two pastors here locally. We've been talking about a lot of ministry, but I'm blessed to. I have a nonprofit ministry called Broken Not Dead Ministries. So we get to travel all over the country and bring hope and restoration built on the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that's what I get the pleasure of doing most of the year. But then there's about 4 months out of the year where I get to stand on stages like this and champion life. And it's probably one of the greatest honors that I've had in my life to be able to do that. And I'm just going to say tonight, I'm a storyteller, right? So I'm going to be sharing my story with you. But I want to pause for a second before I do that and say this. I'm blessed and honored to be able to share my story, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here to champion and honor this amazing organization that you all are blessed to have. Let's give it up for all of the leadership of Option for Women. They literally are on the front line doing frontline battle work. Because I think Paul alluded to this. He said that we're, I don't know how, you said a battle, but I said we're in a war, right? We are truly in a fight for life. And these people are standing on the front lines fighting for that every day. And I just want you to know, community, I know you know this, but sometimes it's good to be reminded by, the person you've never met before can give you a different perspective. I get to travel. I've done, this will be my 13th speaking engagement this month alone. I was in Fairbanks, Alaska, it's cold, y'all, there, and went to Eugene, Oregon. Then I'm in Texas, and by the grace of God, I've kind of kept my health. So I head to Grand Rapids, Michigan in the morning at 5:20. So I out of St. Louis, be 2 more speaking engagements in Austin, New Mexico, and then Kentucky. Then I get to spend time with my family. I haven't been home since October 10th, all right? But with all that being said, don't feel sorry for me. What I'm saying is I wouldn't rather be any other place than right here, though, tonight, because I believe that it's worth the fight. So I'm going to ask you guys just this question. Is it worth the fight? All right, look, my dramatic pause was on purpose because I heard a lot of amens. I saw head shaking, right? And some of y'all are, about to have a Pentecostal moment right there, right? Like, yes, it's worth it. But here's the thing. I'm going to challenge you here in a minute, because the thing is, Sir Edmund Burke says the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. And I'm not yelling at you, but I want this tone. I'm going to challenge you here in a minute, right, to get behind the words that you just said. If it's truly worth the fight, as far as I'm concerned, if it's worth it to me, I'm going to make time, right, for whatever that cause is, whatever that action is. I'm going to give them my talents, right? I'm going to give to that, whether it be like for here, volunteering. You've heard there's needs. There's men in the room. I'm a man, right? We need to step up, men, right? And I'm not yelling at you. I want to encourage you, right? If it's worth the fight, we need to get our hands maybe a little more dirty than what we have. And then there's treasures, right? We got to have these treasures, got to have resources. So that the main goal, obviously, tonight is to get behind financially and support this beautiful organization. But here's the question is, but why? So hopefully what I want to do is my story will maybe kind of give a different, a more powerful, possibly perspective on what the why is behind giving money to this organization, okay? That's my goal. So what is my story? When I was 8 years old, I was at school, and I had some friends come up to me and say, man, you're weird and different. And I'm like, okay, what's that mean? And they're like, you hadn't noticed that your family's white and you're not? And I look at my hand as an 8-year-old child, and for the first time in my life, they ain't lying. I'm brown. I had a little freak out moment. I was like, right? Like, what? I just thought I had a tan all year round. I didn't know, I didn't know. Because it had never come up in conversation, because it wasn't a matter of color. It was a matter of love, right? So obviously something's not right. So I come home, and I had a nosy mama. Anybody in here got a nosy mama that's just in your business all the time? Now, at 39 years old, a man, I've grown to know that my mom just loved me. And that's what it was. But as an 8-year-old, she's just in my business, right? So I just wanted to go to sleep that day, but I also will say this, if I'm being honest, that's the first time in my life I truly remember being broken, right? That's the first time in my life I truly remember asking God, why? Why do I have to be the wrong color, right? Now, I wasn't the wrong color, but that's what I heard. So my mom knew something was up, and she pulled me in real close that night before I go to bed, and I tell her what happened at school that day, and she pulls me in really close. It kind of got awkward, and she said, son, I love you. I want you to know that. And before I say anything, you are my son. You always have been. You always will be. I said, okay, Mom, what's going on? And she said, well, when you were 7 days old, we brought you into our home as a foster child. You were on the same bottle of formula you left the hospital with. As a matter of fact, when we got you from Human Services, they said that this child's probably going to die, but he needs a place to come, and be comfortable. So what we did is we brought you into our home. We said yes, and we squeezed milk into your mouth until you were strong enough to start sucking the bottle on your own. You might have been a little spoiled because we never put you down, right? We held you. As a matter of fact, I got a book over here that hopefully you bless me. Get a copy tonight. It's $15. I can take check, cash, or card. Got to feed my family, so I'll just throw that in there. But no, seriously, to me, it's from my heart. I co-wrote it with a friend of mine who I'll share about later, but on page 36, as we're talking about family, I know you can't see this. It's a long way away, but I'm going to hold it up because this is a picture on page 36 of literally like one of the first days they brought me into the family. And my dad, the only earthly father I've ever known, actually, he worked in the coal mines. I thought he was black most of my life, but just saying. He'd come in and bathe, and he slept with his shirt off. So he would take this son of his that wasn't his blood and wasn't his color, and he would hold me on his chest, and that's how he would sleep. Because I was weak, and he didn't want me to. He wanted me to feel secure and safe. So he held his son. From day one, I was their son. So you see, here's the thing: love doesn't require DNA, right? So I'm finding this out as an 8-year-old. I told y'all, first time I remember being broken, though. Why do I have to be the wrong color? Why is this family not my blood, right? Here's the biggest one, though. Why would a mother not want her son? I would wrestle with that for many, many years. But as an 8-year-old child, that day is when it really started. And I really had this longing in my soul that I didn't even realize I had. But also, I'll share this because it's going to come back in the story. In the midst of all that, my mom had kind of paused, and she walked over to my closet in my bedroom, and she goes, in this box, she pulls out this 3-ring binder. And inside this 3-ring binder is some important information. There's 8 pages of typewriter paperwork. I was born on March 31st, 1982, okay? So there's my birth certificate, and then about literally 8 pages from Human Services that had my birth mom's name, Glenda Sue Holt, and then it had some other family member names. Now what was kind of weird was many of the last names of family members were all different. So that was kind of weird. I didn't know why. I mean, I'm 8 years old, and I'm looking at this. It also had in that journal, or in the, I gave it away, but also in that 3-ring binder was 250 pages or so of journal entries. So it was handwritten messages from many members of my family, but mostly my mom, over 5 years of my life. And they would take Polaroid pictures. Y'all remember? Got to shake those things out, right? And they would stick those in there. They glued them in with like Elmer's glue or something. Now, today, I still have it. It's like parchment paper, or something. It's old school. That's not right. Parchment paper, it's, what's that? Moses days. Like they wrote on that stuff. Parchment paper, what you cook with, right? But anyways, y'all get the drift. It looks like somebody poured coffee on it. So now it's a special treasure that I have. I've laminated all the pages. The pictures are faded. But it was actually truly a gift that I was receiving that I didn't realize how special it was until later in life. So she gives me this. I find out where I'm from. But I'm going to tell you again, it's the first time in my life I remember being broken, and I was struggling. I was hurting. I was angry. I was frustrated. All those emotions. But here's the thing, and we were talking about this at the table just a little bit ago. Sometimes we got to be broken to come to Jesus, right? I'm a man of faith, and I'm thankful. I'm not ashamed to say it, that in the midst of my brokenness as an 8-year-old child, I'd had a drug problem growing up early on. Maybe some of y'all had it like me, but every time the church doors were open, I was drug in and drug out. Yeah? Can I get an amen? Like, my family even cleaned the church. So we were there even when church wasn't church, right? And honestly, I was scared. The exit signs and, the red light shining in the sanctuary. I was like, flee, Satan. But anyways, I guess you had to be there to experience it. But I had that problem. So I knew the name of Jesus, but I didn't have a relationship with him. There's difference. But in the midst of my brokenness as that 8-year-old child, we were at a revival. Any of y'all ever been at a revival? Right? Brother Bob was preaching. Don't know his last name. I can't remember his last name, but I just know whatever it was good. And I didn't even wait for him to give me an invitation to come to Jesus. I ran up during the middle of his sermon. And I'm literally on my knees at the altar just crying out because I'm broken and I'm hurting, and I've heard this man named Jesus can help me, can comfort me, but most importantly can save me. So as an 8-year-old child, I came to know Jesus. Now, I think the greatest math equation known to man is Jesus plus nothing equals everything. But if we're honest, that's a daily struggle. Every day. Is Jesus going to be enough today? Is Jesus going to be enough in this hour, in this minute, or this second? So for me, I think when they called me weird and different, it just stuck with me. And I didn't want to be called weird and different anymore, so I threw myself into Jesus plus sports, right? So I was in 7th grade, I was 200 none of your business pounds, okay? I was running fullback and middle linebacker. So here's the thing. If you call me weird and different, you know what's going to happen to you? Hopefully they recognize your body, Then in high school, I went from earthquake to freight train. I was 200 some more none of your business. Still running fullback, middle linebacker. Any of the men in the room, maybe some of you ladies that like Pittsburgh Steelers, remember the bus? Jerome Bettis, he was like 280 pounds running. That was kind of like me. I outweighed the lineman by over 100 pounds, but I was running the ball. Right? That's weird. I was a weird, built weird and weird guy. But nobody's going to call me different weird anymore. It's just not going to happen. So so what it was Jesus plus sports equals everything. So I had some scholarship offers, and I had a plan. Anybody ever had a plan? And then it's like, God gets a hold of it. So 1998, I'm 17 years old, and I had my first back surgery. I got hit in the back. I had 3 herniated discs and a pinched nerve. Literally, I had lost all my scholarships because basically the doctor said this is the worst back injury we've ever seen on a child this age. So they told my parents he can either walk or play football. Now, I'm 17 years old. You know what my answer was? I'm down. I'll be all right. Put me back in, right? But my parents were loving people and smart people. They said, no, I think he'd like to choose to walk. So my dreams were crushed. Lord, I thought you and I had a plan, right? I was going to be running through a checkered end zone, hearing this hound dog and this beautiful, y'all don't even know what I'm talking about, do you? University of Tennessee, okay? Volunteer, Tennessee fan through and through. I'm sorry, I've lost half my audience, but it's okay. But here I am. Anybody knows what I'm asking God? I'm laying in bed for 6 weeks trying to recover with a back injury at 17-year-old, and I'm asking God what? Why? There's a theme here. So I walk onto a campus in Bristol, Tennessee. Any NASCAR fans out there? We got one. That's usually how it works. I saw a small hand go up, maybe 20 times to Bristol. I'm sorry. No, it's good. No, it's a great place. Literally, this town survives on 2 weeks a year. For the NASCAR fans, they show up in droves, and the town just comes alive. But I went up there I actually majored in youth ministry, and I walked onto the baseball team and earned a scholarship and played for 5 years. It helped me pay my way through school. But it was a small little liberal arts school, and I just happened to, look, when you walk onto a college campus, it's kind of like you start noticing these beautiful creations that God made. It's like, I've never seen anything like that before, right? So baseball team, and now here's the thing. I said this last night, I'll be honest. We had a Brazilian last night sitting at the table, so I was able to kind of make a connection. But there was a Brazilian volleyball player named Rachel that I was smitten for, right? But she had a roommate. Actually, no, that's my wife's name's Rachel. See, it's all about her. Her name was Heather, right? So I liked the roommate. I liked her, but then she started dating one of the baseball players, a teammate of mine, which I actually sang at their wedding. But that left me hanging out with her roommate, which is Rachel, who became my wife, right? So, she knows, and now it's kind of fun. Like when we go into the area now, they have 2 kids they've adopted, and our kids get to play together. It was just kind of funny how God works, right? He has a bigger and better plan. I married the right one, right? So Rachel and I, early on, even when we were dating, we started talking about what it would look like to start a family if we were to get married, right? We both were tired of playing games, and we decided this is what we want to do. So we get married in June 17th, got to get this date right, June 17th, 2006. And early on in our marriage, we decided we wanted to start trying to have kids. So our first pregnancy, 8 weeks in, I was actually a student pastoring at a church right down the road from where we lived. I went to service that morning to minister to the students. And while I was gone, she lost our baby at home by herself. So I'm a young husband, soon-to-be father. We're so excited about bringing our first baby into the world, and we lose our 8-week-old. You know what I'm asking God? What she's asking God? Why? This hurts. I didn't have answers. I didn't know what to say to her. It was a rough time. And then, so, we get through that season, that storm, and, obviously not unscathed. We're scarred and broken, but we get pregnant again. We're scared, but this time we have successful pregnancy. She's our 14-year-old Isabella today. She's a little singer-songwriter, piano player, leads worship with Dad sometimes. And then we have our third pregnancy, 10 weeks into the pregnancy. My wife's like, something's not right. It just doesn't feel right. So we go to the doctor, and they do an ultrasound and no heartbeat. So 10 weeks into this pregnancy, our third pregnancy, we've lost another baby. Now, this time she was far enough along to where she had to have a D&C, and without getting too graphic, she had to go behind closed doors, have a procedure done to remove our lifeless baby from the womb. That one hit me in a different way, because guess what we're asking God again? Why? But I'm sitting in that, the waiting room, and I'm processing like, okay, I'm 20-something years old. I don't know any medical history. I don't know my race, ethnicity, nothing. And we've lost 2 babies. And what I started doing was the enemy started attacking me and saying, it's your fault. If you wouldn't have been brought into the world, it's like the sins of your, generational curses, or if you just knew the information, like your family history, you could be saving these babies, and they're dying because of you. That's what I was internalizing, right? And I went into really a depression. I was a middle school pastor. We had about 100 middle schoolers, and that's one reason why I'm bald and fluffy today. Just to be honest with you, middle schoolers, there's a special place in heaven for people that work with middle schoolers. Can I get an amen? But I was in Tampa, Florida. We were living in this little apartment, 975 square feet. And I was sitting there working on a sermon one night, and the Holy Spirit just spoke to me in a way that I've never really experienced before, or since then. And it was almost audible to where he said, it's time. That's what I got. That's all I got. And I'm like, Lord, you're going to have to give me more than that, right? So I just started praying, kind of fasting for 3-4 days. And then all of a sudden, it's like, it's time to look for your mom. And I'm like, Lord, I'm 27 years old. I've got a mom, Joyce Holland. I've got a dad, Paul Holland, right? They love me. I love them. What are you talking about? And then I'm thinking, how many times in my life over 27 years I thought about my birth mom and where she's at and why she didn't want her son. And I mean, there were so many times where I was this close to saying, like, okay, I'm going to look for her. But then, well, what if she has a family, right? I don't want to mess that up. Do I really need to meet her? But see, when God says it's time, it's time. And sometimes it's frustrating for us because we don't like to wait. But at 27 years old, he said it's time. So I remember that gift I was given as an 8-year-old child back in the day. I dug that out of a box. It was that 3-ring binder that had 8 pages of typewriter paperwork in it. And I started, I was like, okay, where can I go? I'm like, Google's a good spot, right? There's some good stuff on Google every once in a while. So I open up these 8 pages of typewriter paperwork, and I start doing name searches on Google. The first day I found actually an article that was scanned into on the web. It was a wedding invitation, and it gave me a few more pieces that I didn't have on some family names and stuff like that. And actually, I didn't realize it, but it was my aunt. Okay, it was from her wedding from 1982, the year I was born. And then on day 3, I came across a website for this man named Steve Holt. Now, Holt's my birth name. So I'm like, okay. Now, here's the thing, I got to tell you, Steve Holt is a magician and ventriloquist from Spartanburg, South Carolina. This is a weird cat, okay? He is sawing people in half, right? He's got videos to prove it. And I'm like, not today, Satan, right? And then it gets even more weird. He's talking with these dummies, right? These wooden puppets, and their eyes move. They ain't supposed to be moving, right? And I'm just saying, I didn't really want to dig into this man's website, but something just in here, the Spirit just said, keep looking. So I go on his bio on the website. I click on the bio, and then I start reading his family history, and I'm just going to speed this up. Every single name on my paperwork from 1982 is listed in his bio. And my birth mom's name was Glenda Sue Holt, and he says in his bio that Glenda Sue Holt was his baby sister. So I'm like, okay, I'll send him an email. So I'm like, I think I might be your long-lost nephew. Send. So I sent it to him, right? Because, I mean, look, this guy could have been an axe murderer, or, you don't know, right? I didn't want to give him too much information. So I sent him this email, and then literally, now his wife, Vicky, actually, she's the co-author on my book. She's a children's author, and you're going to get a kick out of this. She's actually a clown, literally. So you got a magician and ventriloquist and married a clown. So it's just, you can't make this stuff up, people. So, and they're such sweet people, godly people. My Uncle Steve and I have been able to do ministry together. He does like Awana programs and things like that. Does birthday, he made his living literally traveling all over the world in the circus and doing like Harry Houdini escapes. And he's a very interesting guy. But his wife, Vicky, said he reads that email and literally passes out, falls out on the floor. And once he comes to, long story short, about 2 months go by, and I'm flying from Tampa, Florida to Spartanburg, South Carolina to meet my birth uncle I didn't know existed, and he didn't know I existed for 27 years. And you talk about two grown men weeping and hugging and it not being really weird, but just like ugly crying, you know what I'm saying? But it was beautiful at the same time. And then we spent 2 days together just kind of swapping stories. And what he told me was, he said there was 6 of them, so he's one of 6 siblings, and all of them except for him had some type of mental handicap. So there were 3 girls and 3 boys. My mom was the baby of the whole family, and her 2 sisters and she were about a mental capacity of an 11-year-old, okay? So then he tells me we got thrown into orphanages, and some of us were in foster care, and not many of, I think my Uncle Steve was the only one that was adopted. And he wasn't adopted till he was 50-something, which was a whole other story. They honored him and adopted him later in life. But he said that my mom was 18 and kind of, how foster care works. You kind of get too old and you're out of the system, and then what? She gets thrown into a state mental facility. And while she was there, they set her up with this little work program, right, just to give her a sense of worth and value. And one evening when she was walking back from the job, she was raped by 5 men. And nobody knew it because she's 18, but she's 11-year-old here, and she didn't want anybody. That's not something you go around talking about. So it was a few months later they found out, this state-ran facility found out that she was pregnant. And so let's think about this. State-ran facility, state-funded, no family, no job, no resources. What do you think they're telling her your only option is? Abortion, right? I mean, statistically, that's the right thing to do, right? She didn't think that. 11-year-old. What's our excuse? 11-year-old mentally or 18-year-old, 11-year-old mind woman said, that child that's inside of me is worth fighting for. She literally carried me homeless majority of the pregnancy. The last time my uncle had ever thought about me, or thought about being able to put his hands on me, whatever, was I was in the womb. She came to his house looking for help when she ran away from that facility, and they were separated for 10 years. So he never knew what happened to the baby she was carrying because she was there for a week and then disappeared for 10 years. So what I was able to tell him while we were talking, I was like, I don't know how she made it to this place, but she made it to Chattanooga, Tennessee, wound up in a women's shelter, and I think a lot like Options, that had resources and things to help her. But there was also a pattern with her, as you see her story, where she would run away anytime anybody gets close. Because you got to think about how many times you think people told her that I care and I love you, and then they didn't. So she ran away, and by the end of the pregnancy, she's homeless, living in a cardboard box behind an old grocery store called Pickett's Grocery in a little town outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee called Whitwell. If you're from there, they say Whitwell. Don't ask me how you spell it, but it's the town I grew up in. There just happened to be a 16-year-old boy one day skipping school and came around the back of this store and saw a box move. And he flips the box back, and it's this 18-year-old, 9-month pregnant woman. So this 16-year-old boy loads this woman up, or actually picks her up. They walk to his home, and he walks in, and he's like, "Hey, Mom, Dad, look what I found. Can we keep it?" Now, a 16-year-old man comes home with an 18-year-old woman, 9 months pregnant. As a parent, you're like, "What did you do?" You know? It's like, no, I found it behind the store at Pickett's Grocery. You know, can we keep it? We got to laugh because we're going to be crying here in a minute. So this family said, "You know what? Sure." For 2 weeks, they cared for us, got us to the hospital, and then she gives birth to this little bouncing baby boy that she named Steventhen William Holt. All right? Stephen was my uncle, who I'm talking about, and William was her dad, my grandfather. She wanted me to have both names. So the way she said it audibly is, I want him to be named Stephen, then William. But whoever heard the name and the way she speaks, they put it all together. So that's why you have Steventhen, okay? It's easy marketing. I'm the only one in the world. Google it, right? So I'm finding all this out as a 27-year-old man. And that's awesome, right? That's great. Right, but by the way, the Holland family took me in as that 7-day-old, right? That 16-year-old boy waited for his family to leave the house because I was on the same bottle of formula I left the hospital with. I was about to, very malnutrition. And he thought, we got to save this kid. So he loaded us up, and he didn't have his driver's license. He drove to Human Services and dropped me off. And I went into the Holland family as a foster child. By the way, they had a miscarriage of a 22-week-old little boy 2 years before that, and God used that brokenness to open up their home to start foster parenting. There's power in brokenness. Sometimes we don't see. So that's great, right? Powerful. But it's not over. My uncle looks at me after a long, dramatic pause, and I'm like, this is weird. He said, I want to tell you something. He said, your mom, my baby sister's alive. She's 5 hours south of where we stand right now. And he asked me this, do you want to meet her? You remember what the Holy Spirit spoke to me a few months earlier? It's time. So I said, Uncle, it's time. He made me wait a whole, 20 or overnight. I didn't sleep at all. We drove down. She was living in a mental facility where you had like common area in the middle. You had men on one side, women on the other. My uncle did a magic show for the residents, right? So we had planned to go back to her room and do this private meet and greet because we didn't know she's 46, but she's only 11 here. So we didn't know what would happen, if she would freak out, if it'd just be too much. We didn't want to embarrass her. But God just took over. There just happened to be a video camera rolling when he was doing his magic show for these residents, and God just, I'll tell you what. I just want to give you an opportunity tonight to meet my hero, Mama Glenda.
I love my sunshine, and I love my life, and I love all of y'all, and never forgive me. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right, well, we hope you enjoyed our magic show and our song and dance. All right?
We got a song.
And Stephen's going to sing for us.
I got a song. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved
A wretch like me, I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
I want to show y'all how good God is. Glenda, you stay right here. Come here. I wasn't going to do it this way, but we are. Glenda Sue, you know I love you.
I love you.
You have been through a whole lot. And you've been the best girl you could be for 46 years.
Yes, sir.
And you had a little boy when you were about 18. And you missed that little boy.
Yes, sir.
His name was Steventhen William, but he has a different last name. The family that you gave him to take care of him, their last name was Holland. So his name is Steventhen William Holland. And this is him. This is your boy. He's a good boy. Let me You are his real mama. And you've been the best mama you could be to me.
I'm so happy you made the choice that you did. I love you too. Yes, he does.
We have pictures for you. He brought pictures for you. He has made a scrapbook for you. And he has, in the scrapbook, he has pictures of him. Remember the picture you carried of the little boy? You thought was your son, but wasn't really your son. But now you have real baby pictures of him. And you have pictures of the Holland family, Mr. and Miss Holland, that raised him. He has a lot of family. And they love you. They've always loved you.
Son, I love you from the bottom of my heart, and I love you deeply in my heart. And I want to say I'm glad that you're here today. And Mama loves you, and I have from this first time that you was in my belly. I sang to you, I read nursery rhymes to you, I remember all that. And this is your mama right here, and I love you, my son. And I want to show you something that I've learned. I love Jesus, and I want you to know that I love my family. And I know now I have a real big family that I can look forward to seeing. I love you.
My hero. There's just something that happens, a shift in the room where it's not about me anymore. It's about her. You know, yes, the objective that we have at Options is to save babies, right? But we have to love the moms, right? And you've heard that. You've heard that in the client testimony, right, as we shared about that. You know, that love that you're pouring out on mom to choose life. And that's what we're fighting for, right? I hope and pray that, you know, again, I said from the beginning that my story, I'm honored to share my story, but I'm tying it back to the amazing work that's happening right here in your community. That because of this work and because of the fight that we have, I hope, you know, my prayer is there's more Steventhen stories to come, right? I'm a representation of, when you look at society, literally my story, my life, for, you know, abortion to be justified, you could check every single box. Mentally challenged, rape baby, right? The list goes on. But God has a bigger plan. And I'm going to ask you again, I asked you earlier, is it worth the fight? Because if it is, again, Sir Edmund Burke says the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. I had a birth mom that fought for me, or I wouldn't be here today. I have 3 beautiful daughters. She has 3 beautiful granddaughters that they call her Gigi. Now, here's the sad part. I mean, yes, I'm thankful for that, but my mom went to be with Jesus, who she says she loves, by the way. I'll make it through that whole video until she says I love Jesus, because that's the hope. She passed away on Thanksgiving night 2020. She choked on a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in a state mental hospital that she had been in for a while. Now, it breaks my heart, and I'm asking God, what? Why? But then I'm sharing our story all over the country, and I'm connecting with a lot of people God's blessed me to connect with, and I'm getting messages from people talking about how much my mom, the mentally challenged woman that only functions 11-year-old that the world would say has no worth and no value, some people, and they're telling me that your mom has changed my life forever by the decision that she made to choose life. And she's not only your hero, she's mine. And then I'm looking at God is too big. He loves all of us. We all have purpose. And these moms and these babies that come through these doors have purpose. And these funds that we're about to raise, and we're about to raise a lot of it, I'm claiming it because I think we serve a huge God and a big God. I was talking to Paul over lunch and just some meetings today, and I said, man, what do you need? Like what if money wasn't an issue, what do you need to make sure that this work, this life-affirming, life-saving work can continue on? And he said, we need $200,000. Okay? Now listen, I did some research. I'm a numbers guy. So my goal, I'm telling you, $200,000. By the way, just so y'all know, in Missouri, you have a 70% right tax credit for anything given over $100 is what I was told. Am I right with that? Okay, just saying. I think a little carrot here for you. So we have about 200 people in the room tonight. So if we all could give $1,000 one-time gift, we could reach that $200,000. Now listen, you're like, Steventhen, I can't do that. Okay, let me give you another one. 200 people in the room tonight giving $83.33 on average, right, of monthly support, which, by the way, I run a nonprofit, y'all. You know how important monthly support is? To know that it's coming every month, right? It's so important. I call it the lifeblood of any nonprofit is monthly support. So if you're not somebody who's made that choice, I just want you to pray about it. Could we as a family, could we do monthly support as well as do a one-time gift tonight? Now, some of you say, like, I can't do $83.33, right? Let me give you another one. And this is something I would say this. Like, if you can't do $83, let's think about giving $20.83. Now, again, you don't have to do the cents, but that's the math. If there were 4 people doing $20.83, that would equal that one person giving $83.33. Y'all with me? I give you too many numbers? So if you were one of those 4 and you went and found 3 family members or friends, right, to give $20.83, then guess what? $200,000 over a year. So I was doing some digging. You know how many people are in your area right here that option serves? 25,000. So if we did the 4 people giving $20.83, that would only take 600 people. You think it's doable? I do. So what I'm saying is, but I can't do it for you. So I said, if it's worth the fight, what I'm going to ask you to do is, a table host, let's get these folders out, these envelopes, and inside of there's these giving sheets, these pledge cards. And I want to encourage you while you're getting those out to fill out clearly on top. This is the moment, y'all. Remember I said, is it worth the fight? If it's worth the fight, let's get to action. So we can do a one-time gift tonight, which is in that middle section. There's some numbers and different things given. We can take card, check, cash, online giving, which is at the bottom there, supportlife573.com. And then also, like I said, I really want you guys to pray about becoming a monthly supporter. Because, again, that is the lifeblood of any nonprofit, including Options for Women. And here's what I want to do. While you are doing that, if I can get through this, I want to leave you a gift tonight. And I want to sing you a song that I actually wrote for my mom. I wrote it a year before she died, not knowing that she was going to die. And it's called You Are Not Alone. And this is my gift to you. She's 18 and all alone, just trying to make her way back home. It's when they came and stole her innocence. Here she is expecting child, thinking it could be a while before she holds her baby in her arms. Oh child, you are not alone. Oh, you are child, you are not alone. He will hold you in his arms. He will hold you in his arms. So through the pain and the tears, she conquered all her fears, and she stood strong against all odds. While others stood amazed in awe, she defeated all the odds as she chose life for her baby boy. Oh child, you are not alone. Oh, you are not alone. We believe, child, you are not alone. He will hold you in his arms. He will hold you in his arms. Now maybe you can't see it or even believe that he is working all things for your good. Now maybe you can't see it or even believe that he is working all things for your good. He is working all things for your good. Oh yes he is. Oh child, you are not alone. Oh, you are not alone. We believe, child, you are not alone. He will hold you in his arms. He will hold you in his arms. Thank you.